Here we go, family. I hesitated as to whether or not to talk about this one today, but here it goes. So I had a dream last night that every emotion is some form of energetic cording. And I could see how both love and anger or fear or hate were the energetic cording, one to something that is wanted and the other to something that is not wanted. And I'm putting this into words, but in my dream last night I could see it, what it looks like. And it looked like a kind of webbing, not like a spider web, but like a web of energy. And that the emotional web in our life is what holds us in place. And the more that we fight with it and twist and turn in it, the more that it just gets tangled up around us. And that every emotion is this form. This may be a better view. I don't know how the sun. You guys can see that? Yeah, Snow Canyon style. What were we talking about? Oh yeah. So this energetic webbing, and I began to see how the only way to navigate through this is through indifference. To have at least periods in your life where you become completely indifferent to the appearance of things, because the emotions get in the way, and they don't allow us to see our life for what it is. And so, like the falcon, we can zoom up out of our life and see where we're stuck. And by de-energizing these emotions, they lose their gravity and their hold on us, like a cord, like literally a cord that's holding you in place. And so, at any rate, I began to see these cords and how even on a positive or what would be perceived as a negative spectrum, the cords hold us like an umbilical cord. They hold us in a particular point in place. And that in meditation, we learn how to detangle these webs, because when you go within to your inner world, you just focus on your breathing, and when things come up, you're able to kind of see them from a sort of the perspective of a witness, or from your higher dimensional perspective that kind of sees from above. And that's kind of like what this dream was for me. It was that it was like my higher dimensional self was allowing me to see my life in this reality, and to see the relationship that I had through these different emotions, and how every emotion, even if it's on love, but love, not, the word would be more like wanting, and the other word would be like belief, and then the other word would be like worry or doubt or anger, or even loathing. But even something that you ardently hate and zealfully loathe will cord you to the thing that you don't want. This is where Job says, the thing I feared the most. It's the same thing. Because you're emotionally charged in a direction, it's really a symptom of a lack of ability to see the magic that is being self-imposed. It's like if you've ever been at a magic show and you witness the sleight of hand in front of you, and at first you may think it's real, and then you may have an understanding that, hey, maybe it's not it's not what you think it is. And then later someone like says, hey, this is how it actually works. Well, all of a sudden, when you see how it actually works, it loses the magic loses its hold over you. And this is what the mystics refer to as going from the law to the promise. And that there is this law, and then we get stuck in the law, and we think that everything is just cause and effect. And then we have some experiences and some inner dialoguing, and we begin to kind of like understand that things aren't always as they appear to be. And so from there, we learned that we're this other being. So there's this other part of us that's partly emerged into this plane, but not fully emerged into this plane. And the more that we connect to this, the more that we live in the promise. And the promise is in living your higher dimensional self in this reality. In other words, you're not bound in this emotional web all of the time, that you're aware that it exists, and you become more keen and more wise of how to navigate through it, so that you're not just wasting your life subjugated to something that does not serve you and that you do not want to be the subject of. And so you learn how to tap into this hidden resource of power and sovereignty to go further in your life than you ever believed was possible. So part of this, the second part of this dream was that I had that connecting to my higher dimensional self was a sort of spiritual coffee. And what that meant was I saw myself going to sleep, but I never really slept. I just laid my body down, my body rested, and then I got my body back up in the morning, but my spirit was never asleep. In other words, my spirit always saw this multi-dimensional reality and this love essence and this soul essence of my being all the time. And it was like, and my own soul was telling me that this is how we're meant to live, that we're meant to live this way all the time, that we never go to sleep, that we're always woke, that we're always awake, and that we can see the future and the past happening all together, and that we aren't just thinking about life, planning our life, but we're actually living our life with love and with power and with harmony and with beauty and with connection, and that this spiritual coffee is the best word I could come up with. And I guess it's because I love coffee too, but I really enjoy coffee, I'll say. But it's like it's this coffee without the crash. It's just this inner wakefulness and keenness that never subsides, that never dims, that never throttles itself. And even when you're asleep, you're never in a subconscious state. You're always in a conscious state. And the third part of the dream was how our consciousness is what predicates what we're able to create in life. Because and our consciousness is kind of like our subconscious, what in psychology we refer to as the subconscious. And that is, it is the background and the texture through which a picture of something new, something better, more beauty, more curation of elegance and of what is desired in your life comes forth. Well, if the consciousness is on a low vibration, then you're going to have what is referred to as cognitive dissonance. In other words, the picture will be rejected even before it gets fully seated inside of you, because it's and this may not be one may not be fully conscious of this, but that the consciousness is not at a energy frequency that will allow the picture. It's kind of like birds of a feather flock together, and then the other one is that like falcons and eagles and whatever great birds that roam the higher realms, they don't flock. They're more kind of independent. And that's kind of how it goes when you and I begin to wake up, is that we don't necessarily um, have the ability to resonate with any particular title. It's more that you're just yourself. And people will say, well, are you this? Are you that? And you'll say, no, I'm me. Like I'm just me. I learned a little bit from Buddha, but then I just became myself. I learned this from Jesus or whatever those writings were, and this is what they said to me, and then I became more myself. And then Seneca or this archetype, and then I became myself. Because like Seneca says, talking about Seneca, I was just reading this morning. He was saying how we don't get to choose our parents, but we do get to choose whose children we are. And Jesus says it through Paul in the book of, I believe, Hebrews, that the spirit inside of me cries out, Abba, Father. To me, what this means is that when we awaken to our own interdimensional self and to our higher dimensional self, however you want to call it, our own soul energy, there's like a myriad of words for this expression. But when we wake up to this, then what happens is that we become our own mother and our own father. Hippocrates says that life is short and art is long. And this is why it's important to do some study and to be able to learn from different individuals on this plane in this time and throughout other historical times as well, because life is too short to learn every lesson yourself. It's important to learn some lessons yourself, but life, if you look at the life of a planet, I mean, Kalyugs, millions of years, and the life of a universe from the original outset of this cosmic experience that we're having. If you look at the life of a planet or a sun or a star, or even the life of this rock, how long has that rock been sitting there? And what was that rock before it was that rock? How long is that mountain? How long is this mountain over here? We just call it White Rock. How long has that valley existed? Well, I can tell you it's probably existed longer than this body has been on this plane. Longer than this DNA strand has been going on since the first parent of this DNA that I now am on the leading edge of. It's been going on for a long time. And so therefore it is important, one could say, that it's important to learn some things from other people, because you don't have time to learn every lesson yourself. And Seneca later says is that just when we get our feet off the ground of like, okay, I got a concept of who I am, my worth, and what the enemy is, now I'm ready to live. And then by then it's like, okay, you have 5 years and then you're out. Or even worse, that you're going to wait till you retire to live the life that you dream and that you have passion for, and you're just going to do what you hate in the meantime, in between time. That's kind of I don't know about that. And so the third part of the dream for me, and maybe this resonates for you as well, was this understanding that our consciousness is so important, because our consciousness, our baseline consciousness, is what predicates the kinds of experiences that we'll continue to have in our life. I forget which text talks about that death is not so much about leaving the body. That's just a transition. But death is a change of consciousness. This is why Jesus says to be born again, or the yogis say to be twice born. However you want to look at it. Paul said it like this: I die daily. is that we what this means is that you can't die in your body every day. I mean, that's kind of crazy. That would be kind of outrageous statement to make. But what it does mean is that that your consciousness, that the consciousness that you have yesterday, is not the one that you have today, because this consciousness is evolving. But it's not really evolving in the sense that we think about evolution. It's more that it's awakening more and more, and then it's staying awake like that spiritual coffee. That the conversation is always there. That this guide is within your own heart, and it's leading the steps that you make. And then you don't just keep on making the same mistakes. That you're in different realms, and you're learning different lessons, doing different things, walking in different lands, and having new experiences. And so, this is what we're talking. This is what came to me, is that the death is the change of a consciousness, is that you change your consciousness. And this change of consciousness then allows you to visualize new things, to think on a higher thought, to change your vocabulary, to no longer be the subject of these emotional webs, to not go to sleep and wake up and go to sleep and wake up and go to sleep and wake up, but just to stay woke all the time, and to have maybe some little dips, because that's just called life. But those are the anomalies. It's not like the default operating protocol. And that as the consciousness changes, and that consciousness grows into awareness, so the awareness is not even predicated by consciousness. It's aware of everything that was, is, and will be. It's an ongoing, always awareness, and it's not predicated by time or experiences or even this lifetime. Another part of this aspect is that if you think of awareness as being all pervasive, all encompassing, then that means that all the potentials of what I will do in this lifetime have already been played out. And then I can be aware of them before I perceive that they're going to happen, because they've already happened. And this is where the conversation of time, which will be a thing for another day. But these 3 points, to recap: emotions, knowing that emotions, positive or negative, are a form of energetic cording, and to be able to dissolve those emotions opens up wealth, which means more options, and talent, which means you're no longer holding yourself back. I'm no longer, again, I'm talking to you, but I'm really talking to myself right now. So this isn't anything other than I'm just documenting my process, and I'm just putting this out there because dreams can teach us a lot about what we're meant to understand and to know in this life. And because the conscious mind's not there to block out this information. So understanding this emotions and the cording, and this is why, again, meditation is important, because it allows us to become indifferent and to become the witness or the seer. And secondly, this spiritual coffee, to not go to sleep and wake up and go to sleep. That's just a polarity. But to just stay woke, and to stay woke is to be able to continually have this this inner awareness of being. I was talking to someone the other day about ayahuasca, and I was saying, it's like whatever. Like I'm if that's your thing, cool. Like good. But then what happens when you come off of it? Then what? If you need to have an experience so that you can see past the limitation of your senses, then if that's going to work for you, hey, do your thing, whatever. But then what is your baseline for living? Then do you have to just go back to the next ceremony before you can to live with that greater sense of awareness? Or have you found a practice and a process within yourself where you can live from that all the time? I believe Buddha says it like this, that there's no such thing as enlightenment. And even if there was, even if an angel came and spoke into your ear right now and told you, like, this is the whole deal, you still would have to live your life. And so better is to have this ongoing flow and rhythm for yourself that's perpetual, that's a relationship, that's cumulative. And then you're just always in awareness, like most of the time. And the third thing is then to understand the part about the consciousness. That consciousness is so important. And you don't want to just be limited to what you're conscious of, but to be able to take off the overriding consciousness that has been holding you back and be able to let that die. There's all this talk about like self-improvement and positive mental attitude and blah, 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 blah. And I mean, some of that stuff is really awesome. But at the same time, sometimes things just need to die. And that death is a great solvent. And that it's not death of leaving this body, but it is the releasing of an old consciousness. And it's kind of like the example I could give, like when I was a kid, I loved Tonka trucks, and I had a bunch of them, and I just would freaking go in the dirt and dig and play and make mountains and whatever I did at that time. But I don't play with Tonka trucks anymore, and I don't feel bad about it. And so it's just like that served me. I don't feel. I mean, it was great. It was good times when it lasted. At the same time, I know that my life has changed and my preferences have changed, and therefore I don't see any need to do that anymore. Maybe if I had a son, then that was his thing too, then it would be on. But for me in my life right now, that doesn't serve me. So my consciousness has changed. At one point, I just wanted another Tonka truck. And at this point, it doesn't even matter. I don't even want a truck. So that's how it goes. And so when the conscious changes, then the circumstance surrounding the new conscious will change as well. And that consciousness grows through the inner awareness of your being as you're able to connect with that more and more. So these were a few concepts and things I wanted to share with you today, mostly just kind of verbalizing them to myself so that I can remember some of it and maybe come back and watch it for myself later on. At any rate, peace and blessings to you. Remember, love goes before each step. Until next time, namaste.